All right, thank you for staying with Newsnight. The conversation still continues. Let's see what you're saying online at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Newsnight. Let's bring that up on your screen and see. Jesse Moa says the government needs to rethink this model. There are sectors you don't segregate in class. That is the health and education sectors, okay? Elvin Wafula says, as a student leader, I feel like this new funding will lead to a lot of issues. One, qualified students will fail to join university due to the burden of school fees. Two, more students will select public university, making them overpopulated, leaving private universities with a lot of space. In fact, let's answer that first. Let's go back to what Elvin has just said now and hear what PS has to say about this. Elvin says that one, qualified students will fail to join university due to the burden of school fees. Do you agree? Absolutely not. The government is going to support all the students and no one will be left behind. A short while ago, I just indicated how we are going to distribute the scholarships and the loans according to the level of need. I want to assure all the students out there that no one will be left behind. We shall stand with you. This model supports all the students. But he also further says that it will make students choose public universities more than private universities, leaving the private universities with a lot more space. I don't believe so, because the students have always had the opportunity to choose. And they look at many variables which guide their choices. And that has not changed. Okay. Yes. Gadiru, let me bring you back on this. Is there something that was left out during these discussions? Because they say that you were part of it. What would you have liked tweaked in this entire conversation? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is a very good start. It's a very good start, and we are all on the same page on that. But I think progressively, we need to move more towards higher levels of, analysis of what we need to fund and who we need to fund, especially also the institutions. Because also when you look at the university value chain, students and fees are inputs. But the conversations around the outputs, we've not had that conversation so much. But I know the PS and Bwana Geoffrey Monari could have been discussing those issues, because we want to see how employable are these graduates. When the government invests 70 billion or 40 billion into funding students, what does it get in return? How many jobs are created? How many students are in productive employment? How many startups? And for example, in private universities, we're very, very keen on employability rates. For RIARA, for example, we track our students every year. The latest statistics showed 83% of our students have something to do within a year, and about 50% before graduation. And the numbers were even better before COVID, at about 93% of students getting jobs or starting their own businesses. So eventually we need to get to that level so that the institution does not feel like, yes, whether it's a loan or a scholarship, whether it's a public or private, that because students have come, my work is done. Wherever the student goes, it's up to them. So bringing that into the conversation progressively will help us to enhance quality. And it goes to the question that was asked about overcrowding. So where there's overcrowding, how will you balance that with quality? And those are questions that institutions need to answer themselves. It's not even the Ministry of or UFB. It's institutions. How many students do I take to be able to guarantee quality and return on investment for the government from that student or from the parent? Yeah, Monari, there were issues that were raised by Guy, though. One, does the system pick changing circumstances? You could be okay today, you're not okay tomorrow. Maybe a parent has lost a job, or even the parent themselves are deceased. Does the system pick the changing circumstances? And can the government have special tailor-made deals with SACCOs and banks to loan them? Because the university fund was one of them that we were talking about that should have given them grants of money, but you don't have enough. Yeah. Thank you, Trevor. But before I go to those questions, I want to just clarify on the issue of capacity, which was one of the concerns of the person online.
universities declare their capacities before placement. Therefore, there will be no chance for you to overcrowd because as placement will be done, you have already declared your capacity that you can only take 10 students, 50 students. And the extra students are now placed in other universities and may spill over to other institutions. Therefore, if the capacity that was declared is 10, and this is approved by the Commission for University Education, therefore it takes care of the issue of overcrowding in the universities. When we come to the issue of if circumstances change, this is one of the key issues that has always been there, in that a student is allowed to appeal for revision of their loans or their scholarships, and is one of the issues that we shall ensure that will continue, because circumstances do change. You could be there for after your KCSE, your parents are not there anymore, or your sponsor has stopped funding you. Therefore, there will be a chance for a student to explain or give their new conditions so that that can be reviewed. On having special loans, I know HELB has already signed several MOUs with the National Bank, KCB, to provide parents with special loans. One of the key things that, and this required the HELB Act to be changed, is for parents to take loans on behalf of the students. But this is not allowed by law. So what HELB has done is to sign MOUs with banks, and you can be able to get concessionary loans to be able to support a student. The other key thing that has come up, and this is one of the major shifts right now, is to bring together all the funding bodies, all the institutions, if it is counties, constituencies that fund students. As directed by His Excellency, all these institutions should be able to bring the funds together so that you know how one student is funded, and you can give a picture to, for example, a county and tell them this student already has been funded fully. Can you be able to direct your funds to another student who requires the funds? This will give a full picture of how a student is funded. The other key issue that is emerging in this model is we are going to sign MOUs, and this was directed by His Excellency the President, so that the fees that is charged is, university do not change the fees. I mean, the fees and the cost of the programs. Therefore, the cost of the program that we are going to agree on will remain until when the next review is done. This will be able to assist the students in terms of stability during their studies and ensure that they are funded properly. Yeah. Yes.
Trevor, let me also just come in and clarify. One of the students raised concern that perhaps this model is discriminating against courses. I also want to assure that student and many other students that there is no discrimination. The only thing is that we assign different weights to the different courses. So for example, right now, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda lays emphasis on 5 core pillars. That is agriculture, health, affordable housing, medium, small and micro enterprises, the digital superhighway, and the creative economy. So these will get greater weight, but that does not exclude any other course. So students will be funded for all the courses. Yeah,
but earlier on, before the break, we're talking about some funding streams. How come you haven't enabled universities to have more robust research so that they can, in the domino effect, will mean that they can now attract even more investment, but it has to start from here? What is the plan for that?
Actually, we are doing a lot with universities. We probably don't just speak about it loud enough. They are now working on diversifying their extra budgetary resources. We've had many conversations with them. This is part of the reform process in the universities, how they can optimize their idle assets. We know that many universities have large tracts of land that are lying idle, But then again, this is just one of the revenue streams where they get a fee for service or for some business that is related to their core mandate, like Egerton and the famous yogurt. So that's one funding stream. The other funding stream is what we are talking about, what we have addressed, the student-centered funding, the scholarships and the loans. We are also working on a model of distributing capital infrastructure grants to universities. And when that is ready, we shall share. That is the third funding stream. And then, of course, the most important, the research grant. So through the National Research Fund, we are working to enhance the research funds available to universities with a view to raising up to 2% of GDP. But at the moment, we are working with universities to incentivize researchers to undertake research. And we are making a lot of progress. So, for example, Egerton University the other day just won a bid for about 4 billion. And the government is supporting that by investing 100 million every year for 5 years. That's 500 million. So we are working with individual universities, supporting them to partner with other institutions out there and attract funds. There's funding from the European Union, 95 billion euros. And we are working with universities, supporting them again to partner with universities in Europe and other African countries to get some of these funds.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should mention Egerton, because I have a message here from the UASU Egerton Chapter Secretary, Dr. Grace Kibue. She says, hello, Trevor, kindly ask the PS, is she aware that Egerton University academic staff were not paid salaries for 3 months, December, January, and February 2022? When will that money be paid? Or how was it accounted for? And they continue earning half pay. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I'm aware. And Egerton and many other universities have been experiencing this funding crisis, given the 61.1 billion pending bills. And this is why, when our president took office, the first priority was to set up the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, so that some of these gains that are coming through now, for example, with this new funding model, universities are going to get an extra 20.3 billion. And this money is going to alleviate some of these problems. Moving forward, once we start implementing this, no university is going to go without paying salaries, for example, remitting pensions, pay. Many of them have already started dealing with this problem, but this model and the extra resources that come with it are going to alleviate these problems. Then there's the big issue of pending bills. And again, we are working very closely with the President's Council of Economic Advisors to come up with a Marshall Plan that will help us to deal with this problem decisively.
Do you have a general idea of when these arrears will be paid?
So, like I said, at the moment, all universities are now current. But the arrears, everything that's part of the 61.1 billion, that is what we are working on a Marshall Plan to resolve. Okay. And I think that colleagues should appreciate that with this new funding model, already there's more money going into universities. So since they'll have extra resources, we will go into discussions. They will go into discussions with, let's say, the pension funds, agree on a payment plan, and start paying this money slowly. So with the new academic year, when the model is operational, then we shall start resolving these issues.
All right. Let's continue the feedback that was coming through. Let's read some of them and finish up on this conversation here. I know there's quite a number. Let's see if we can squeeze in. Sir Nixon says, most private universities are not just there to serve the rich and the mighty, but rather a mitigation to the little space in public universities. As such, all students in both sectors deserve equal treatment by their government. Okay? Let's see what else you're saying. Honorable Lilian Sioi says, we have private universities in Kenya that don't get government funding but are still operational. What we are seeing is that Kenya Kwanza has not put forward any initiative that is new in terms of funding education. Okay. James Krueni says, let's shoot straight from the hip. The university grant should be on a need basis. It was a total abuse of the kitty, which became a free-for-all, even to undeserving lot. Okay. Adoma Mwanganga says, bringing down the block sponsorship to comrades does more damage than it does anything good. It's so predictable of how everyone will become vulnerable, and when this comes, corruption takes the wheel. Okay. Nijak says the entire model should be reviewed, fund only to the extent market can absorb. Subsidizing education when you can't create opportunities is a waste. Better to put that shilling elsewhere where it can benefit them. Look at the unpaid HELB loans from unemployed or underutilized students. That's an interesting conversation. Let's bring that up first before we take the next one. Monari, is this a concern that, yes, we are subsidizing education, university funding, but what is the absorption rate? It comes back to what Gateru was saying.
I don't think the ignorance is more of a concern.
Okay.
I think as a country, we should be more concerned about ignorance.
Yeah.
And if you look at the percentage of students who are going to university, we are still very far. We are talking about this last cohort of KCSE 2022, 19% of students got C+ and above. We have got a huge percentage of students who have to work their way towards university, and the road is longer. And this is a concern. In other countries, we are talking about, in Japan, it's 70% of the students from high school go to university. South Africa, you're talking about 40 to 50%. So as a country, we should be really concerned that 19% of the students, where do the others go? So for me, we would rather have more students who have got loans and who are educated, who can be able to think and create employment, create opportunities, than students who we condemn to stay at home without any university education.
But there's a counter-argument from the private universities. Do you agree with that? Gaido, let's start with you. Because I know Gateru had already mentioned that they literally track their graduates.
It is important, really, to look at the employability, the person we are releasing. So what we need to do as universities is to make sure that we prepare. We have quality, training, relevance, and such that a student who emerges from the university is not just prepared as a village person, local person, but a global workforce. We are saying we are global citizens, and we have very many Kenyans working elsewhere. So if we can train as many as possible, we are not just training for Kenya. We are also training for the world. So the issue is quality, relevance, and how we prepare these students.
Yeah.
And if we prepare them to conquer the world, so be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gateru, how do you justify the limiting of the numbers that you're talking about? How do you make that happen? Is it by making sure the fee is so high up that not everybody can afford it, or is it about the grade system? How do you ensure that you find just the cream de la cream? And what happens to the others who don't get a chance?
No, I think also there's a bit of a misconception that private universities, and I think one of the members of the audience spoke to it, that private universities are for the rich and the needy. Riara University is right next to Kibera, and we have students who have been born, brought up, and still living in Kibera, and they are working their way to pay fees at Riara University. So private universities are not just for the so-called rich. There are people who opt to look for whatever funds they can get to get that very good quality education. And we'll see that continue. But I think the conversation needs to move beyond, because the students are also becoming more and more aware of value. And I dare say that, the biggest competition for us is not ourselves. It's not public or private or public to public. The biggest competition for university education in Kenya is the education technology companies. And the courses offered by employers that students are taking, and employers are recognizing them and saying, we do not recognize that degree. We recognize these other qualifications that are from the industry. And we need to put our sights to that so that as we talk about quality, we are conscious about developing that quality student. For us at RIARA, for example, as I said, we opted to remain small deliberately. We just have about 2,000 students. And we feel that with that, we are able to give attention to every student and help them to progress and grow and achieve what they want to achieve. And that's something that each institution needs to discuss internally. As Geoffrey was saying, when we are declaring capacity, are we declaring capacity just to get more students? Or are we balancing that with the need to offer quality education that will guarantee the student some meaningful engagement after they have graduated? So it's a conversation that every institution needs to have. And as I said, it's not always about numbers. It is much more than just getting numbers.
Trevor, there's another point to this. We know that jobs are created, work is created when the economy is thriving. And so far, our president has been out there mobilizing foreign direct investment. So we are attacking this problem from all sides. We are out there looking for jobs from the foreign market. We are also trying to spur the economy. So we cannot wait until the economy is thriving before we train, because it takes a long time to produce a graduate. So we are in a better place when we have a stock of human capital that will then fill into the jobs that are evolving, but also just shifting the mindset of our students and asking them to be creative, entrepreneurial, and create opportunities for themselves and for others. And we've been moving around these universities. You'll be surprised what creative and innovative projects are coming up.
So should we then have a system where specialized universities come up, or do we restructure the universities in such a way that you know this university is known for medicine and it is world class? And how do you achieve that? Instead of having universities that are jacks of all trades, they teach everything.
So as part of the reform process that we have been discussing with our universities, we are in agreement that slowly, as a government, we shall start investing, especially the capital infrastructure grants, into areas of specialization. So universities have been tasked to identify their niches so that they can be supported to develop centers of excellence in a few areas where they can excel. So going forward, you can expect the landscape to really look different.
Let's finish up with all the feedback, and then I'll come to you for closing remarks, because we're really pressed for time. There's a lot of feedback. Let's try and see if we can summarize them really fast. Inyangala says the government is legitimizing discrimination by locking out private universities. Most of them are faith-based founded universities which played a key role in education. The government is a newcomer in the education compared to mission churches' role in education. See what else you say. Samoa, this is the last one, I believe. I support the government on fees guidelines. Let students in public universities enjoy help funding. Private universities are not sincere. You can't be vulnerable and insist you're going to be a private university. Leave it there for now. Let me get your closing remarks. And
Trevor, I'm not sure that mine are closing remarks, but I just want to demonstrate to the public how this model is going to work, using some of this data that has already been supplied by our universities based on the actual cost of the programs. So this is a program, Bachelor of Arts, and it has been established that it will cost 122,000 Kenya shillings. So for the vulnerable, the scholarship will be 100,000, the loan will be 22,000, and they will not pay anything. For the extremely needy, the scholarship will be 85,000, the loan will be 36,000, and they will not pay anything. For the needy, the scholarship will be 64,000, the loan will be 45,000, and they will only pay 8,000. 8,000 the whole year, so that means every semester 4,000. For the less needy, the scholarship will be 46,000, the loan will be 67,000, and again the fees That is what comes from the household. Household support will be 8,000, 4,000 every semester. Can we get a better deal than that?
That's an interesting analogy. Is there any other cause that you have there?
Yes,
that you can demonstrate? Because
yeah,
that then means that everyone gets to have a scholarship and the loans at the same time.
Yeah.
So that then drastically reduces the amount of fees that people will be paying in universities, regardless of whether you're vulnerable, less vulnerable, or need.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me illustrate maybe one of the popular courses like B.Ed, Arts.
Yeah.
The cost program is at 183,600, and extremely needy and the vulnerable will get a scholarship of 150,552 and a loan of 33,000, and they'll not pay anything. Extremely needy will get 128,520 a scholarship and HELB loan of 55,000. If we go to the needy, then they will be able to get in the same, that is B.Ed Arts, that is 183,600. They'll get a scholarship of 97,308 and a HELB loan of 73,000, and they'll be required, a household will be required to raise 12,852 per year. And as we said, they will not be expected to pay anything extra. If you go to the less needy, these are the people, you'll find that they'll get a scholarship of 69,768, HELB loan of 100,000, and the household will only raise 12,000.
But what is the catch here? Are there chances that you might miss the scholarship?
There is no catch.
And miss both of them.
Is it so difficult to believe that this is such a good deal?
Because it's a good deal, and that's where...
It sounds too good to be true. That's
it is true.
So because even HELB, not everybody gets it. Sometimes you can apply and you don't get it.
The government is putting in 20.3 billion. HELB today, the allocation is 17. It's even more than what they are getting. So you can see the amount of money being invested. And part of that money, and that's why we are saying the amount going will also be given to private universities. So that's why we are saying there is no discrimination.
Okay.
It is, this has come out from a lot of analysis and looking at how we can be able to assist the Kenyan universities and the students.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
of course,
you have,
goodwill.
is it public? Is it publicly available?
Yes, on the KUPS website.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You wanted to say something before?
Yes, I was going to say that this is what happens when you have leadership and goodwill from the top. The university sector has suffered for a long time. But because of the leadership we have right now, things are going to change.
Right.
Things have begun changing. Watch this space.
Okay, let's start that role now of closing remarks. And by the way, as a closing remark, you might add on this. Yeah. Are universities prepared for CBC transition, or will you also got flat foot?
That's a good question, and we're having conversations with CUE at the moment across all the institutions to gauge our preparedness. Some institutions are more ready than others. Others may be caught flat-footed, and as the PS said, some may die a natural death for not adjusting or reading the signs of the times. So, and that's maybe part of my closing remarks, that universities right now, we are at a point where we need to rethink higher education completely as a country and as a sector, not just here in Kenya, but globally. And that will happen if we don't have this dichotomy between public and private, or saying public, private. For example, just quick example, before 2016 reforms, public universities were the largest private universities because of Module 2. I'll say that again, they were the largest. University of Nairobi was the largest private university because of Module 2. Yeah. We never complained, and because we know what we're offering. So at this stage, when students had been sent to us, we've seen a lot of fire and a lot of bashing and all that, which does not augur very well. In the US, for example, most of the top universities are all private. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, all those are private. But you can see the contribution to the economy of US. Stanford alumni, for example, contribute about $3 trillion to to the US economy. So what we are saying is let's look at the sector as one and make sure that we do not send the wrong message to those wanting to invest in higher education in Kenya. There's a lot of interest in higher education in Kenya. And if we bring that funding, we'll be able to export our young people who we appear to say they're jobless. There are many jobs out there in Germany, South Korea. All those people have elderly populations.
Yeah.
So that's the vision we need to have of preparing people to work in these economies where there are no young people, including Italy and some of the others.
All right.
And as we work together through the leadership of the PS and the team, I'm sure we'll get there.
All right. Guido, closing remarks?
Thank you very much. I think what I would say is in training, we must also bring in the industry. That the industry-academia linkage must be enhanced so that the industry tells the universities what they need, what kind of competence they need and skills. Sometimes when universities are not properly linked to the industry, we end up graduating students who the industry feels they don't have the proper skills and competencies. So as academics and as universities, we are inviting the industry to participate even in development of curriculums and syllabuses.
All right.
Because that way, we shall prepare for the actual market. And therefore, in Kenya, we have KEPSA, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. And this is a consortium of the industry players. We therefore need to have KEPSA and universities working together so that we can have proper skills transmitted to our students.
All right.
Others, I would say thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
And as private universities, we shall continue supporting government.
Okay.
And of course, we always say education thrives in peace, in a peaceful environment.
Okay.
Kenya has enjoyed a peaceful environment. And therefore, we can have an opportunity to turn Kenya to become the education hub for the region. It can be the destination for international students.
All right.
Yes,
Monari,
thank you.
Closing remarks?
Yes. First on CBC, the government has is funding the Commission for University Education in the financial year 2022-2023 to work with universities on pedagogy and other issues so that the CBC curricula is prepared in time for the learners who will be coming in by the year 2029. So this is work in progress, and the funding has already been put there. My final remarks is that I would urge universities to look at other revenue streams, especially on commercialization of research. Universities should become more entrepreneurial. We need, as much as the government is putting its best foot forward in terms of putting in more funds, we need to ensure that there's better cost-cutting measures and we use the funds that will be available more prudently. And finally, we will be working on performance-based funding so that the outcomes are also measured in terms of how do you how many graduates are employable, which programs are you training, and that will create autonomy. In fact, if you look at this funding formula, it creates more autonomy for the universities to plan because you will be funding the student and not the university.
Okay.
Thank you.
PS, closing remarks, but as you make your closing remarks, there's another question for you, PS. Ted Munovi says, hi, Trevor, there's an element of accommodation and upkeep, food, etc. for the university students. How is that captured? As you make your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Again, our model is holistic. So the money that goes to help, there's that aspect of upkeep. And I want to assure our students that that has been taken care of. So boom will be there, just like in the old times. Finally, I welcome the collaboration with private universities. You can see the myth that they are discriminated is not there. We are here. We are talking the same language. We have a model that applies across the board. And this is the message that all the listeners should take home with them. It is scholarships by the owners of universities, public or private, and loans from HELP by the government. that will be accessible to all the students. You are all our students, you are all Kenyans, we will work with you, we will work with you. There's enough funding, sit back and be prepared to be the best versions of yourselves to actualize your potential.
All right.
Thank you
so much for making time this evening. Dr. Beatrice Inyangala, Principal Secretary, Higher Education; Geoffrey Munari, CEO, University Fund; Dr. Vincent Gaido, Secretary General, NAPUC, which is National Association of Private Universities of Kenya; and Professor Robert Geteru, Vice Chancellor, Riara University, and KAPU representative also, that is Kenya Private University Association. Asanteni sana for making time this evening and for clarifying these issues. I believe you have gotten your clarifications on the issue around University Fund. If not, we'll still have these conversations as time goes by. All right. My name is Trevor Umbiji. On behalf of the entire team that made this possible, we say good night and have a good week ahead. All right. See you tomorrow.